Oh no. Call the police. There's been a theft. After returning from my mother's 60th birthday celebration, I noticed the $12,000 watch my mother had gifted me was missing. I told my husband, John, to call the police because we had a break in. But he said, don't. It's definitely here in the house. Don't. It's definitely in the house? What does he mean? Why is he so sure? But, you see, I've already called the police. Yes, I've already alerted them. This was probably the work of that person who was so fond of my watch, wasn't it? So that's why you didn't want me to call the police, right? Sigh. I'm flabbergasted. I'm totally disillusioned with you. I just can't deal with you anymore. You two, the dumb mother-son duo, can go to hell. My name is Haley, and I'm 38 years old. I've been with my husband, John, for 2 years, and we officially got married 3 months ago. He was a handsome and respectable man that I adored. But there's one thing about him that I just can't forgive. Well, maybe it's not just about him. Yet, it's frustrating to think that if it weren't for this, I'd probably be living happily with John. What I dislike about John is, Johnny, I'm here again today. You're here again, Mom? Well, make yourself at home. My mother-in-law, John's biological mother, in addition to be such an unpleasant existence, she overly spoils John. You wonder why I hate the woman who gave birth to the man I love. Well, it's because of this. This incident. We have been living together before we got married. So, I didn't expect much to change after getting married, and I thought we would continue living our normal lives. I'm here again today. I feel nauseous. The mother-in-law, spouting off lines as though she were visiting her boyfriend's house. After our marriage, she started coming over every Friday, spending the weekend, and leaving late Sunday afternoon. And we're still newlyweds. But I get lonely being alone. I have no clue. My mother-in-law wasn't like this when we were dating. She never once visited our home. But the moment we got married, she started coming over as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I was puzzled, and when I asked her about it, I got a bizarre response. Well, before marriage, you weren't family yet, were you? So, I thought it'd be a bother if your boyfriend's mom started dropping in. But now that you're married, we're family, right? So, I thought I didn't need to be so reserved anymore. Her answer left me dumbfounded. What on earth was she talking about? I vented my frustrations to my husband, John. Well, we're newlyweds, and we'd like to spend the weekends alone, right? He understood my feelings and spoke to his mother on my behalf, even though his way of addressing it was like, Mom, we're newlyweds, you know? It's a bit much that you come over every week. Oh, Mom, maybe it'd be better if you left a little early today? Though, you're welcome to stay and relax. His roundabout way of saying things was so frustrating. I didn't know if he didn't want to upset his mother or what, but he wouldn't give her a firm no, which made me feel irritated listening to him. Maybe I should have put my foot down. But I hesitated to complain about my mother-in-law since we're newlyweds. For the long haul, it might sour our relationship. Yet, it's infuriating that she shamelessly visits our home every single week. What's more, she bosses me around, which cranks up my anger. Hey, Haley, I am a guest here. Be a good host. You, as soon as I finish eating, clear the dishes. Or what? Are you expecting your guest to do chores? How disrespectful of a daughter-in-law you are. Despite calling me family since I married John, she sure talks strange. If we're family, she could at least clean up after herself. But even John seems to be taking the same stance as his irrational mother lately. Well, this is my house, and Mom's a guest. I am building a new household after all. My husband, who agrees with his mother instead of standing up for his distressed wife. He even began saying things like, Mom came all the way here, switching trains and all. It must be hard on a woman over 60. Let her rest a bit. If that's the case, wouldn't it be better if she didn't visit every week? I almost retorted, but I swallowed my words to avoid a fight. That's right. I've come all the way here by train because I wanted to see John. So, you better take good care of me. If she wants to see John that badly, she should just call him to her place. I wish she wouldn't involve me. What a headache these two are. Lately, I've given up. There were days when I used to cry, thinking, even though we're newlyweds, I've complained to John, but he would just say, well, you see. Mom brings all these gifts every time she visits, right? So, don't be so hard on her. True, every time she visits, my mother-in-law brings a gift. Hearing only that, one might think, what a conscientious woman. She's so considerate. But I believe there's a different motive behind it all. The gifts my mother-in-law brings are all, my husband, John's favorite things. And she always hands them directly to him, never to me. Here, John. I brought you some more gifts. You love these snacks, don't you? Eat as much as you want. She always says something along those lines. It's as if she's deliberately excluding me from her field of vision. And of course, John is delighted to receive his favorite treats. He grins from ear to ear and thanks her. Thanks, Mom. I was just craving this. Your choice is always spot on. He exclaims, all excited. My mother-in-law shoots me a sly grin. She knows I'm annoyed. Yet she keeps doing these irritating things on purpose. What's her game? While I'm increasingly frustrated with my mother-in-law's antics, John has accepted her weekly visits. He falls for her strategic moves, hook, line, and sinker, and she grows more confident with each successful manipulation. I keep wondering why I ever married John. These thoughts are becoming more frequent. I once loved him so much, but now I can't see him as anything other than a mama's boy who grosses me out. I'm seriously considering divorce, but my mother's 60th birthday celebration is coming up. A celebration, especially for my own mother. I can't possibly consider divorce at this point, with such a joyous event right around the corner. It would cause so much concern for everyone. So for now, I bear with it, swallowing the bitter pill every day. And in the meantime, this dumb parent-child duo's rampage has only escalated. One day, as always, my mother-in-law showed up. Haley, hey, we're out of beer. Why didn't you bring more? What an inconsiderate woman. Bring me a new one now. And don't forget the snacks. When did I become her servant? Or maybe a waitress? Sighing heavily, I complied with my mother-in-law's orders. Suddenly, I heard her excited voice. Curious, I headed to the living room with the beer and snacks and saw. Look, John, isn't this a wonderful watch? Just perfect for me, don't you think? I love it. To my horror, she was wearing my watch. This watch was very precious to me. My mother gave it to me as a gift for my 20th birthday. And what was more, it cost $12,000. My mother must have saved up so hard. I grew up in a single-parent household, and we were never well off. But my mother had been saving for this day, telling me, I've caused you so much trouble. I've been saving for this day. I felt extremely displeased when my mother-in-law, without asking, took and wore such a cherished item. It was completely inappropriate for her to take it from the watch box on the chest of drawers without my permission. Stop it, please. This is a precious watch that my mother gave me as a gift. When I told her to stop, my mother-in-law went ballistic. What? I'm the one wearing it right now. What do you mean? Stop it. You think you, as a daughter-in-law, can control what I do? I simply can't understand why she would say such a thing considering she took my stuff and put it on without asking. When I was dumbfounded, my mother-in-law, for whatever reason, made a demand with sparkling eyes. Oh, this watch is really nice. Looks expensive too. Give it to me, won't you? I had just told her it was a precious watch my mother gave me as a gift. Nevertheless, the audacity of her to ask for it so insensitively was beyond me. This is truly something important to me. I absolutely cannot give it to you. I expressed a firm no. Then, my mother-in-law, like a child throwing a tantrum, whined. No, I want it. Give it to me. I was appalled at her childish act in such an embarrassing way. I've told you several times, this watch is really important to me. And do you know it's a $12,000 watch? I can't just hand it over like that. When I said that, her eyes sparkled even brighter. $12,000. I wanted even more now. I regretted telling her the price. But it was too late to regret. She was determined not to take off the watch. She refused to listen to me and said, This is mine. Hey, John, could you say something too? You know how much I've treasured this watch since we were dating, right? Out of desperation, I turned to John for help, but I expected he'd probably say something like, But Mom. However, to my surprise, John stood up for me. He added some unnecessary comments though. Mom, I'll get you something much better than that watch. So, let's return the watch. Okay? I'm frustrated with the way they refer to that watch. Really? Then I don't need this thing. At John's urging, my mother-in-law immediately took off the watch. Give me a better one than this. A really expensive one. John calmed her down with nods of agreement. It really pissed me off how they treated my wristwatch as just that thing. It was a very precious watch to me. I couldn't forgive them. Surprisingly, though, after my mother-in-law left, John apologized to me about the watch. Apparently, he knew how much I treasured the watch and thought he'd make sure it never ended up in my mother-in-law's hands. I wished he'd stopped her from trying to wear it in the first place. But, all in all, I realized this was John's way of being kind, and for the first time in a while, I felt genuinely happy. Like everyone, it might be only natural that he cherished his mother, so his behavior around her was understandable in a way. That being said, I did think his mother was definitely going overboard. I found my mother-in-law infuriating, but when she was not around, John was a kind and lovable man I fell in love with. I had started to notice more of his flaws, but I'd gradually learned to accept them. After all, if I got angry every time, I'd wear myself out. I thought I should have stopped being mad because she was disrupting our newlywed life. After all, we'd probably live together when she gets older, and it was just practice and simulation for that time. So, I decided to compromise. Did that make me an easier target? My mother-in-law's selfishness escalated. Yes, until it developed into such a major incident. It was my mother's 60th birthday celebration. My younger brother and his wife were also supposed to join us. When I told John about it, he said, "Let me join the celebration too." On Friday, we decided to go back to my hometown for the weekend. I was excited about spending a weekend without my mother-in-law for the first time in a while. After work, John and I met up and took the Amtrak to my family home in Virginia. It felt like we were on vacation, and I was overjoyed. It's been a while since we did something like this. When I spoke to John, he nodded. "I'm sorry that Mom's been so selfish lately." To my surprise, he apologized to me. John, like me, was raised in a single-parent family. So, he had felt a strong sense of gratitude towards his mother and found it hard to stand up to her. I could understand that. When I thought about the struggles John must have been going through, I felt guilty for being angry by myself. The conversation flowed smoothly on the Amtrak, and we arrived at my hometown in no time. My brother, living in the hometown, came to pick us up and we headed to our family home. My family home, my mother and my brother, it had been a while. I enjoyed myself for the first time in a while, forgetting all about my mother-in-law. I must have been under a lot of stress lately. Apparently, I was really enjoying myself. After celebrating my mother in grand style, the day to return came around quickly. Even on the Amtrak home, John and I had a lively conversation and enjoyed the afterglow. Then, we returned home, and what? No way. Somehow, my wristwatch was gone. I'd never worn my wristwatch in my private time, so as to avoid losing or breaking it when I was heavily drunk, I didn't wear it intentionally. I had no idea what was going on. There was no sign of a break-in, just my wristwatch was missing. My precious wristwatch. I was thrown into confusion. Why my wristwatch of all things? I was confused by what happened to me. In despair, I bursted into tears. "Just calm down for a moment." While we were out, my wristwatch went missing, but for some reason, John seemed calm. But there was no way I could stay calm in this situation. "What are you saying? Call the police." "It's a robbery," I said, asking to call the police. Then John's expression changed completely. "Stop it. I'm sure it's in the house." "Huh, definitely in the house." What does he mean? I couldn't believe my ears. Why is he so sure? As I was puzzled, he said, "Wait a moment," and went somewhere to make a phone call. I didn't understand, but I thought it might be somewhere, so I searched the whole house. But I couldn't find it. It was definitely stolen. While I was feeling down, John finished his call and came towards me. "My mom is coming over now." My mother-in-law. Why now of all times? When I said, "Now's not the time for this," John hung his head in silence. He looked like he wanted to say something, but what could it be? While I was thinking and searching for my wristwatch, my mother-in-law arrived soon. Gosh, what's the hurry to call me over? I was in the middle of shopping, you know. In the middle of shopping? I'm sorry, Mom, but as I told you on the phone, Kelly's wristwatch is missing. You've been in the house all along, right? I thought maybe. Been in the house all the time. What? Wait a minute. What do you mean by saying that my mother-in-law has been in the house all the time? When I hastily asked, my mother-in-law answered with a laugh. I've been staying here as usual while you guys were out. What? Staying here? Why? It didn't make sense to me at all. While I was gaping, John started to make a rushed excuse. You know, it would be troublesome if something happened while we were away, right? We're newlyweds, and someone might come to congratulate us unexpectedly. It'd be a big deal if a burglar came in. That's why I gave Mom the key. Plus, she said she wanted to clean the house as a thank you for letting her stay over every week. I was truly mad at what he was talking about. Why didn't he inform me in the first place that my mother-in-law was at home? My head was reeling. All I could manage was a startled, "What the heck?" Then, John just continued making excuses. "Haley, you must have been so looking forward to celebrating your mom's 60th birthday, right? I didn't want to dampen your mood by saying anything. You know, you're not particularly fond of my mom." So, I realized this guy was hopeless. It was pointless to talk to him. Whatever, I don't care anymore. As I mumbled this, John tried to justify his actions again, droning on, but I couldn't take it in anymore. I regretted even considering revising my opinion about John. I genuinely felt I couldn't be with John anymore. Then, with exasperation at John, I turned my anger toward my mother-in-law. By the way, she had been fond of my wristwatch. I was sure it was her who stole it. Let's just put aside the fact that you were in the house without my knowledge. As I said this, my mother-in-law opened her mouth. Why do I need your permission to be in John's house? Are you stupid? I wanted to snap back. You're the stupid one. But I held back and shot back with a question. Where is the wristwatch that was here? As I asked, my mother-in-law replied with a deceitful smirk. Haha, who knows? Maybe you lost it somewhere. As I explained that I never wear it in my personal time, and I always keep it here, my mother-in-law lost her cool. If it was so precious to you, you should have kept it on you all the time. That defiant came back. I hit back without missing a beat. So, you're saying you took my wristwatch without my consent? To my question, my mother-in-law stayed silent, but after a while, she started grumbling just like John. Well, John didn't buy me a wristwatch, and he went to your mom's 60th birthday party. That pissed me off, so I took it. It was like the excuses of a child, having been caught doing mischief. I wondered how old this woman really was mentally. Even John seemed annoyed at being blamed like this, and he defended himself. Hold on. Are you saying it's my fault? As John said this, my mother-in-law slammed the table, stood up, and lashed out at John. Yes, you shouldn't have gone to the birthday party for your wife's mother. I don't care if it was her 60th birthday, you didn't have to go. You're my child. You don't have to celebrate your wife's parents. I felt like she was belittling my mother, and I was ready to blow my top. You didn't have to steal the wristwatch. When it was gone, I immediately thought of you. I didn't give you the key to do things like this. Give me the wristwatch now. John lost his cool before I did. That's right. The priority now is the safety of the wristwatch. Please return the wristwatch immediately. As I said this, my mother-in-law became even more stubborn. No way. It's mine now. I won't return it. I'm getting annoyed with her obstinacy. Oh, is that so? Well, in that case, I'll report this as a theft to the police. As I said this, both my mother-in-law and John said in unison, "Pooh, police. Pooh, police." The two began to panic. Sure, what Mom did is unforgivable, but we don't have to go that far. We know she is the thief. If that's the issue, I can buy a better one than that. Here came John's better than that watch comment again. Hey, I told you that the watch was a precious gift from my mother who raised me single-handedly, didn't I? Then why do you treat it like it's nothing? When I said that, John was left utterly speechless. Then, my mother-in-law began to rant. Just over a wristwatch, involving the police is too much. John is suggesting it. Why don't you just let him buy a new one? My doubt towards my mother-in-law, who would absolutely refuse to return the item even when I mentioned the police, increased. Why was she so insistent on not returning it? If you won't return it, I'll have you arrested by the police. You have a choice. There's still time. For my mother-in-law, this could be seen as a last-minute decision. But her response was this: "No, I won't return it. And it's ridiculous to call the police. I won't let you call the police. John will buy a new wristwatch. Isn't this okay?" I thought about it for a while, but this woman was really out of her mind. While I was dumbfounded, John spoke up. "Hey, can both of you calm down? Mom, return the wristwatch to Haley. Haley, don't call the police. If anything, I'll buy you a wristwatch." What? Both of them were crazy. It was becoming such a hassle. I won't return it. I absolutely will not return the wristwatch. At this point, my mother-in-law still insisted on not returning it. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I'm seriously going to explain to the police that my mother-in-law stole it. When I, exhausted, said this, the two tried to stop me again. "We told you to stop." The two were shouting, and I retorted, "Even if you say stop, I've already called the police." "What?" Actually, I had already reported it to the police. "What's going on?" As the two were panicking, the doorbell rang. It was the police. "Wait, why are the police here? When did you call them?" Brushing aside the screaming two, I let the police into the house. Then everything went quiet. Watching the two shrivel up in front of the police, I thought, serves you right. And then the police began to question the two. The two, trembling, looked pitiful. My mother-in-law was, of course, arrested. John, who had given the key to his mother, was questioned thoroughly to see if he had not participated in the crime. In the end, he was found innocent, but he was completely exhausted and even had some gray hairs. Then, John apologized to me many times, who shed tears in front of me and said, "I'm really sorry." But there was no way I could forgive him. "I want a divorce." I firmly said. "What, why?" Why, indeed? Did he think he did nothing wrong? While I was being treated like a servant by my mother-in-law, you were inviting her to our home every week. You treated my precious wristwatch like it was nothing. You let your mother into our house without consulting me when I was away. And you stubbornly try to stop me from calling the police for this case. These are my reasons. When I told him the reasons why I wanted a divorce, he started with his typical excuses again. "Listen, I can't handle you making excuses like that. It was really fun when we were dating, and I loved you. But when your mother gets involved, I realize that you're a hopeless mama's boy." When I said this, John fell silent. "If I stay with John, I'll be reminded of your mother even if I don't want to, and I hate that. So, let's get a divorce." John simply said, "I'm sorry," and agreed to the divorce. And that's how I was released from these fools. By the way, the reason why my mother-in-law was so adamant about not returning the wristwatch to me was because she broke the wristwatch. It seemed she had put it on in high spirits and went out, and during her meal, she got drunk and hit it hard somewhere, causing it to crack. I couldn't return it because I thought you would make me pay for it if I returned it broken. It cost $12,000 after all. So, I got scared. If she had just returned it calmly, it wouldn't have turned into such a big deal. What an idiotic woman. The broken item was taken by the police as evidence, but I was reassured that it would definitely be returned to me. Of course, my mother-in-law will have to pay for the broken part. As a result, all the savings she had accumulated disappeared all at once, and she seems to be wringing her hands wondering what to do with her life after being released. As for John, it seems that the rumors were flying around his workplace after someone saw the police entering her house, saying he divorced his wife because he was abusive. He acted high and mighty and got involved with the police. Because of this, he had a nervous breakdown and quit his job. Now, he's busy job hunting. Also, his relationship with his mother has deteriorated significantly due to this incident, and I heard that they are almost estranged now. His mother lives a lonely and humble life, unable to afford luxuries, and John is having a hard time finding a job. By the way, I'm sure some people are curious about when I reported to the police. The truth is, it was during John's phone call with his mother when I called the cops. I was beside myself with worry, so the moment John left, I contacted the local police station. When I was told, it will take about 30 minutes to arrive. The shock of having my wristwatch stolen and the thought of waiting for such a long time really got to me. But when I realized the culprit was the stepmother, I was determined to grill her thoroughly. I was surprised that they indeed arrived in roughly 30 minutes. By the way, the police officer told me one thing. In cases of family disputes, the culprit might resort to violence with weapons like a knife. Be careful not to provoke them. Indeed, it was my good luck that it didn't happen. This experience made me reflect, and I want to grow even more as a person. I can't get back the time I spent with John, but it's also a fact that I learned a lot from this incident. I'd like to make use of my experience and move forward to a bright future with the precious wristwatch I got from my mom.